Hey, what's poppin', everyone? So in this video, I'm going to talk to you about what's wrong with most software engineering courses that most people are going to try to sell you on the internet. So before I begin, I want to say that I'm not selling any course. I'm not biased in any way. I'm just saying my opinion here. I'm not trying to sell you my course and say this guy's course is bad. I'm just trying to say that there's something wrong with some of these courses that people are trying to sell you. And the ones that come to my mind initially are like courses by like the Tech Lead and Joma Tech, and then courses like by Clement with like AlgoExpert and Algo Pro. So those are the courses I'm really thinking of, and I'm gonna try to pick apart them to see some of their flaws. Now this is an important topic because these kind of people are selling these dreams that if you just take this course and you do nothing about it, you'll be able to get a job at like fan companies like Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Google, easy. As long as you take this course and you learn the algorithms, and it's not that simple, really. It takes a lot of effort besides the course, and the course is really supplemental to the work that you're going to have to put in. So this is kind of taking apart what these courses are really trying to do. So I spent a lot of effort researching this topic and trying to find more information about it. So if you could you triple click that like button for me for the YouTube algorithm? It'll help me a lot, thanks. So let me begin by stating that the people who create these software engineering courses, they aren't teachers. They're software engineers and /or entrepreneurs. Most of them are no longer software engineers because they don't do the software engineering anymore. They sell a shovel instead of actually mining with the So they teach people how to code, supposedly, but in reality, what do they really do? They don't actually code. They're just entrepreneurs making loads of money on these hundreds of dollars courses. So the closest thing that most of these people have gotten to becoming teachers was when they mentor junior software engineers themselves, if they did do that. And let me give you a little bit of background about myself. So I'm currently a software engineer, and I previously, before I was a software engineer, I was a high school teacher. So I know a little bit about high school teaching, or teaching in general, and software engineering. So that's why I feel like I'm qualified to answer this subject. So like I said earlier, most of these software engineers got kind of experience with teaching by mentoring, but that doesn't mean they actually did mentoring. So the mentoring might not have even happened for the junior software engineers because a couple of reasons, like maybe they're not forced to mentor others and they didn't want to. Maybe they don't care enough to mentor others, these other junior software engineers that need mentorship and really need a foot in the right direction. Or maybe they're just doing a bad job of mentoring others that the junior software engineers didn't accept it and didn't want to continue with the mentorship. So I want to make it clear here, mentoring junior software engineers is not teaching. They do not provide the same amount of experience. And just because you can mentor someone in how to do the right thing and write the right code doesn't mean you can teach someone from the beginning the right algorithms and the right code so that they can get a job. So most of the time when you mentor someone and mentor like a junior software engineer, most of the time you show them like inefficiencies in their code and how they can improve it and say, oh, instead of using this method, you can just use this library that'll do it all for you, because that will help the junior software engineer. It'll kind of give them like a push in the right direction. It's not teaching them how to write the code. So the thing that really separates teachers from mentors is that the mentor will have a perspective gap between the mentor and the mentee. The mentor will, of course, have more perspective, while the teacher will have a knowledge gap between the teacher and the students. So the knowledge is really important here, because if you don't have the knowledge gap as a teacher, then of course you're not really teaching anything. You're just spouting words, and that's not teaching. While the mentor is just going to kind of show how their perspective has changed over the years and how many years they've been a software engineer. And of course you can't get that perspective without many years of working as a software engineer. So it really depends on how many years it takes to get that perspective. Like some say they're like a senior software engineer after a year, and others it might take like 5 to 10 years to become a senior software engineer. So from the definition of mentoring, the mentor software engineer, the senior software engineer, will usually just try to find the flaws in the mentee's code and then point them in the right direction, and not actually teaching them how to code and how to do things right from the beginning. So mentors should be experts at finding these flaws because they ideally should have loads of experience in finding flaws in their own work because they've gotten to this point where they don't need anyone to look at their work anymore because they found all the flaws, right? So most of the time, the mentee and junior software engineers already know how to code. So there's not much teaching to go on there. Like, you're not going to get a job as a junior software engineer if you don't know how to code. Well, you might get a job, but then the interviewer is, of course, doing a really bad job of interviewing and not asking the right questions when they're doing the interview. So most of the time, these junior software engineers just need some perspective on the right things, the right places, and ways to do the code, especially how things are done at that company. Because oftentimes, the senior software engineers will have experience of what happens at the company and what bugs might occur most and what stuff like that. Consequently, since the mentees don't need teaching, the senior software engineers, the mentors, they will not get much experience teaching themselves. Instead, they're going to get some experience mentoring, and it's only some because that's not their job to be a mentor. It's their job to be a senior software engineer and to work on their code as well. They're not spending all their time actually mentoring. Like a teacher is going to spend all their time teaching, like 5 classes a day, or as like my high school teacher used to say many years ago, like it's 5 shows a day because you go through each class teaching and you're going to teach differently to each of them, and that just increases your experience in teaching. So maybe a better course idea would to have a software engineering mentorship program instead of a course that'll teach you how to code and how to use all these algorithms instead of selling that course. But I don't think anyone would want to buy that kind of course, a mentorship course, because it doesn't sell you the job, which will make you the money. It just sells you how to get better at your job, which no one really cares about. Let's be real. Sorry, I shouldn't care about. I shouldn't have said that. I meant not many people care so much about their job that they care about having a mentor. I mean, they might think a mentor is useful for a little bit, but it's not. Most people don't find it useful for that long, because after some point of time, like the mentor will already have used all their knowledge points on the mentee or whatever. So another thing is that when you teach, you start from the ground up. Most of the time, these software engineering courses, they don't start from the ground up. They start from like some point in the middle. And that doesn't really help the people that just want to start at the very bottom. They don't know anything about coding, and they suddenly want to get a job at Facebook. And that's a really unrealistic thing to do and to teach, because it's going to be really hard for someone to first learn how to code and then understand all the algorithms and all the data structures needed to get a job at Facebook. And that's not even counting all the things like the social skills you need, the system design questions that you're going to need to answer. It's a large task, and that's why I find it very difficult to believe that these courses are very successful. And don't get me wrong, I meant successful as in like getting the job done that they're promising to do. Because yes, they're successful as in they're making a lot of money for the people, and there's nothing wrong with that. Money is fine. It's just when you sell the goals, I would hope that they achieve results. So the core goal of teaching and really of these courses is to transfer knowledge from a person that doesn't have any knowledge to someone who, from a person who has knowledge to a person that doesn't have any knowledge. So ideal scenario, of course, is the teacher will start with infinite knowledge pool, and the student will start with zero knowledge, a knowledge puddle, and then it'll all transfer in to that student. But that's not what happens most of the time. Most of the time, at least the student has a little bit of knowledge, otherwise they wouldn't buy these courses to begin with. Or maybe they're buying them because they expect miracles to happen, in which case the people that are selling these courses are abusing the fact that these students expect miracles, but there's no miracles that are going to be happening from these courses. So another thing that the students are expecting is to gain knowledge like instantly, like take the 6-hour course or something like that, and you'll gain all this knowledge like instantly, and then you're good to go. You're going to go get a job at Facebook and Google. But it's just not that easy. There's a reason why people go to school every day to learn stuff. It's because it takes time to really learn like these kind of skills. It takes many hours of studying like every day to get it ingrained in your mind what all these algorithms mean, what all these data structures mean. So it takes a lot of time, and in the end, the student ideally should gain knowledge over delayed periods of time. Like every day, the student ideally would go to the course and then take a couple hours on it and then come back the next day. And then over time, yes, that will work. But I don't think that's what happens in most scenarios. I think the student is going to binge the course because they just bought this hundreds of, maybe even $thousands course. And they're going to want to get through it as much as possible because they're going to be like, oh, I need to get this job. I want to get this job at Facebook, at Google. But it's not that easy. And it might take months for you to or maybe even years to get the knowledge required to do that. So most of the time, these software engineering gurus weren't teaching or mentoring much when they were software engineers. And because of this, it's better to sell the shovel than to mine for the gold, since they don't have to code anymore. They can all sell the shovel and make way more money than they did ever coding as a software engineer. So they'll sell these poorly designed courses, and they'll pump a bunch of these courses out and advertise them for plenty, because they'll know that people are going to be looking for the miracles. And they design these courses from a perspective of a teacher, but they were never teachers. They were always software engineers or entrepreneurs. And that's why the miracles aren't going to happen overnight, but it works for them. Anyways, that's the end of this video. I hope you liked my perspective on this. If you did, you could give me a like, and it'll help me a lot. Thanks. Peace.